Well, I think that's absolutely true in some cases, and I think the evolution that was always going to come in moving people from offices to home, and moving people from the high street purchases and shopping to online shopping has become a revolution as a result of COVID. And that was always here to stay, and this has accelerated it significantly, and is of course causing mayhem in the high street. Um, and especially, of course, with businesses going out of business and causing unemployment. But I think part of that revolution is positive because some people can work from home very productively and effectively. But I certainly wouldn't recommend that as an overall strategy. I think people really do need to be in the office to brainstorm, for the camaraderie, for the mental health of those people. The social aspect of being in work is very, very important from a number of different points of view. So that is never going to be replaced by home working. But what we've seen is there is a place for increased home working, especially in certain jobs and at certain times.
Indeed, and I think it's wrong, is it not, to look at the office as a completely perfect working environment, given the fact that there are often distractions, there are office politics, and there's a lot of, I don't know, I would suggest rather game-playing behaviour in which people will leave their jacket on the back of the chair and go off for a 2-hour lunch and play other such tricks.
Well, I think what you're referring to there is probably businesses run by very poor owners or entrepreneurs or bosses, because those sorts of tricks should not exist. And it's up to each manager to run a very fair and appropriate environment. So I don't think that'd be a very good reason and advocate for home working. Home working should be where it's feasible and possible and perfectly productive. But if you look at the disadvantages of home working, how do you know that an employee is being conscientious the whole time? Are they getting distracted by kids, by animals? Are they actually putting a proper, full, productive day's work in? And sometimes that's very difficult as a boss to make sure that your workforce is doing the maximum that it can to help you succeed as a business. So, home working is absolutely not a solution to this problem, but home working can be done in conjunction with office working and be done very effectively in some cases.
There is talk of the government changing tax policies to help businesses who have to have staff in the office, whilst businesses that are able to have the teams work remotely possibly will pay a little more tax. What concerns me is that we're forgetting about market forces here, and surely in the end we should let the market decide.
Well, absolutely, yes, but that doesn't mean you don't, as a government, try and encourage appropriate behaviour. But there is a much bigger point here, because we're talking here about a fairly minor point of office workers versus home workers, and a much, much bigger point is my Caudwell pandemic recovery, which I call CPR, which is aiming to influence the government to invest massively over the coming years. And I'm pushing for an investment of between 500 billion and £1 trillion over the next few years, invested in renewable energy, into apprenticeship schemes, into inward investment schemes to attract foreign businesses to these shores, and infrastructure in general, such as railroad, hospitals, housing, fibre optic schools, and so on. And in addition to which, a regeneration of the high street, because whatever happens post-pandemic, there will without doubt be a huge increase in empty retail space and empty office space, and some of that could be very appropriately converted into living accommodation to breathe life back into our town centres by encouraging people to live there. And of course that would help the remaining businesses prosper, because there'd be a population living in the town rather than just the commuters that are going into work.
Indeed. Do you think, John, also that the government are going to have to look at business rates and generally how they tax companies, given the fact that so many industries are feeling the pinch?
Well, they're between a rock and a hard place, really. And something that Rishi Sunak said the other day sort of shivers down my spine because he was echoing George Osborne's austerity theory. Now, if there was ever a time in the history of the UK to not put in austerity, it's this time. And the reason for that is because we are going to suffer the greatest loss of jobs that we've seen in my lifetime. And unlike in past situations, the economic principles, the economic conditions of the country are very, very different. We have almost zero inflation risk. We will have currency stability or approximate stability because all countries are in the same boat. And we've got a really, really low cost of borrowing tending towards negative numbers. Now, if ever there was an environment where the government should be borrowing money to incentivize businesses and to make Britain prosper with new industry, with inward investment, with apprenticeship schemes to put young kids back into jobs that were productive and educational and into the infrastructure of the country. If there were ever a time for that, it is absolutely now without doubt. And the Great Britain needs to be treated as a huge business, and that business expanded due to these very unique set of circumstances and conditions.
John, if the country is a huge business, with which I completely agree with you, if we are so fond of the NHS and, you know, a few weeks ago we were applauding it every Thursday night, then we have to understand that economic growth is what pays for it. If the country is a business, what do you make of its CEO, Boris Johnson?
That's a good question, isn't it? I think the government have had the most horrendous set of challenges since coming to power. I think they did really well to get Brexit sorted out, and they're taking a hard line on Brexit. And I think that's absolutely desperately needed for the UK to prosper in the future. So on that score, I think they've done very, very well. The way that COVID has been handled, I've got reservations on. But the big acid test for the leadership of this country now is to understand that a recovery plan of investing into the economy is the only way to make Britain prosper. We cannot make Britain prosper by cutting costs and by not investing in the future. We absolutely have to generate more jobs, and for more jobs to be generated, we have to invest in real business opportunities that create real jobs and get those people off the dole, get them productive, get them earning money, and get them paying taxes. And if they don't do that, we will continue to hemorrhage huge extra government borrowing to pay for all of those unemployed people, and also the huge loss of revenue as a consequence of those people not paying taxes and not going out and spending money.
John, I hear what you're saying about borrow to invest, create jobs. And I think the more bridges and roads, rail lines, the rollout of broadband, you know, these are great projects for the country, which also, you know, create a lot of jobs. I'm just wondering about your commitment to the green agenda in your recovery plan, because I wonder whether global warming is the least of our worries at the moment.
Well, it might be the least of our worries just at this moment, but if you look at my plan of a renewable energy city, this ticks every single box because it helps on the global warming front dramatically. But I'm not just looking at that altruistically from a point of view of saving the planet. That is a big part of it, but a much more important part of it, or equally important part for certain, for Britain itself, is that if we can attract all that inward investment and brains from all over the world to come to British shores and create this renewable energy city where we have a huge amount of science and resource going into renewable energy and ways of generating power, we'll also have an industry that we can export both the products all over the world and the technological expertise. Now that to me would be a hugely beneficial way of killing two birds with one stone, looking after the environment, but having a very, very successful new industry where we're exporting products all over the world and creating maybe hundreds of thousands of jobs.
Well, I think we can all agree that would be a great strategy. John, before you go, have you gained any traction with the government on this one? Have they heard your important message about economic recovery?
Well, I hope so, and I will be putting in a call over the next 2 or 3 months. I think it's all about timing because, they've been so busy on the medical side of COVID that I'm not sure how receptive they've been to thinking about the future economy. And of course, the other part of that is that they've been thinking about the sticking plaster. And I liken it really to a patient that's in a hospital on the operating table. They really need a heart transplant, and what they're getting is dressings on bleeding fingers and infectious wounds. Now, of course, that needs doing, but it's about time we resuscitated the patient and put the patient back to life, and that's got to happen pretty soon.
Well,
so I'm hoping that I'll gain some traction by doing that when I feel the government are probably more able to listen.
Well, I do hope they listen, because you've been there and got the T-shirt, John. You've started so many successful businesses, and your opinions are always worth hearing. Thanks for joining us. John Caudwell is a business leader, philanthropist, founder of Phones for You, and one of the biggest names in business. And it's interesting to get his